Coming up today, hoping to mark the birthday of its founder, North Korea attempts to test fire a mid-range Musudan ballistic missile off its east coast, but fails. South Korea says the missile likely exploded in mid-air. Assessing their post-election future, South Korea's political parties prepare for the next 4 years. The defeated Saenuri party offers an olive branch to independents who jumped ship prior to Wednesday's poll. Plus, an earthquake with a magnitude of 6.5 strikes southern Japan. At least 9 people are dead and more than 700 injured. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's Friday the 15th of April. You're tuned in to our noon newscast here on Arirang TV. It's very good to have you with us. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this afternoon. North Korea attempted to test fire a ballistic missile off its east coast this morning, but failed. It's thought the regime wanted to mark the birthday of its revered founder, Kim Ilsung, who would have been 104 years old today. We have our Defense Ministry correspondent, Kim Hyun-bin, with us from Seoul's Defense Ministry. So, Hyun-bin, what have officials there been telling you?
Good afternoon, Mark. Officials at the ministry says the missile that North Korea tried to launch is presumed to be a Musudan ballistic missile, also known as a BM-25. And the launch took place around 5:30 a.m. South Korea time, and is presumed to be fired from the country's missile testing site in Wonsan near the East Sea. Now, officials say they were only able to detect the missile for a short time and added that the missile most likely exploded in midair. The Pentagon has also confirmed the failed launch. It said a strategic command detected and tracked the missile, but stressed the action did not pose any threat to North America. Now, South Korea said earlier this week that it has spotted a mobile launcher carrying 1 or 2 Musudan ballistic missiles to Wonsan. This, however, marks the first time North Korea has attempted to launch the Musudan. The missile is thought to have a range of 3,000 kilometers, putting Japan and the U.S. territorial Guam within its reach. Now, experts have suggested North Korea could launch a missile today to mark the birthday of Kim Ilsung, the regime's founder. Now, April 15 is celebrated every year in North Korea and is called the Day of the Sun. Now, despite the failure, experts say North Korea might attempt to test fire its intercontinental ballistic missile, the KN-08, earlier next month before Pyongyang holds its first Workers' Party Congress in more than 3.5 decades. The KN-08 has an even larger range, up to 12,000 kilometers, putting large parts of the continental U.S. within its range. Well, that's all I have for now. I'll bring more updates in the later newscast. Back to you, Mark.
Thank you, Hyun-bin, for that report. Now, as a follow-up to that, North Korea's road-mobile KN-08 intercontinental ballistic missile is believed to be capable of launching a nuclear warhead to much of the continental United States. U.S. Northern Commander Admiral William Gortney made the comments this week in a written testimony for a Senate Armed Services Committee hearing amid growing concern Pyongyang could soon conduct its first mobile missile test. Now, while the KN-08 remains untested, Gortney said the modelling suggests it could deliver a nuclear payload to the United States. He added that Kim Jong-un is unlikely, though, to attack the U.S. unless he perceives an imminent threat to his regime's survival. Brian McKeon, who is a principal deputy undersecretary of defense in the U.S., said Washington and Seoul have begun consultations about deploying the THAAD missile defense system to the Korean peninsula to defend against North Korea's missile threats. He said the two allies would engage in discussions about a possible site before making an announcement. A festival commemorating the 104th birthday of North Korea's founder Kim Il-sung is taking place as we speak in Pyongyang. Over 2 million flowers named in honor of its founder are on display, along with art exhibitions and concerts to celebrate one of the biggest holidays in North Korea. Pyongyang is also promoting the commemoration known, as we just heard, as the Day of the Sun to foreigners. Flowers have been laid at the monuments of Kim and his son, Kim Jong-il, with tours of the North Korean founder's home taking place as well. April 15th was designated an annual holiday in 1997, 3 years after Kim Il-sung died. A powerful earthquake rocked the southern part of Japan late Thursday, bringing down buildings and leaving at least 9 people dead and hundreds injured. Search operations are ongoing for survivors who might be trapped under the rubble. Park Jong-hong has the details.
Dramatic footage shows the aftermath of the quake that measured 6.5 on the Richter scale and the highest 7 on the Japanese earthquake intensity scale. The tremor jolted Kumamoto at around 9:26 p.m. local time Thursday and was the strongest since the magnitude 9 earthquake in March 2011 that led to the Fukushima nuclear meltdown. As of Friday morning, at least 9 had been confirmed dead, with more than 760 injured, including 53 in critical condition. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe told reporters that the highest priority is the safety of the residents and that every effort is being made on search and rescue operations. Crews have been working overnight to save people who might be trapped under rubble, but scores of aftershocks have been rattling the area, hampering those efforts. The largest one shortly after midnight was measured at a preliminary magnitude of 6.4. Authorities say around 20 homes crumbled during the earthquake. Thousands of homes remain without power and gas supplies have been cut off to prevent further damage. Authorities say there's no risk to nuclear reactors as most of Japan's reactors remain offline following the Fukushima disaster in 2011. Japan's meteorological agency said there was no tsunami risk and currently no tsunami warnings are in effect. But they advise caution, saying that aftershocks are expected to persist for about a week. Park Jong-hong, Arirang News.
Now, following a heavy defeat in Wednesday's general election, the Saenuri Party is now on an emergency footing until it decides the best way to bounce back from the loss. The Liberal parties, which performed well, are looking to the future. They have dissolved their election committees now. Our Ji Myung-gil has more.
Following the resignation of its leader Kim Ilsung on Thursday, the Saenuri Party is running under an emergency leadership committee, with floor leader Won Yu-chul acting as interim chief. The committee has agreed to accept any elected independents who wish to return to the party they left during a pre-election nomination row. The infighting is believed to have damaged the party's chances in the poll. The 7 defectors include the Saenuri Party's former floor leader Yoo Sung-min, who scored a landslide victory in the southeastern city of Daegu. If the independent candidates return, the party would recover its status as the largest negotiation group in the National Assembly. It would, however, still be far short of an actual majority. On the other side of the aisle, the Minju Party of Korea and the People's Party disbanded their respective campaign committees on Friday. With the 20th National Assembly to officially launch next month, the 3 parties will be vying for the various important posts within the National Assembly, including Assembly Speaker and Chairman posts for the 16 parliamentary committees. Kim Ilsung, Arirang News.
South Korea and Norway have agreed to boost economic cooperation and upgrade their relations. Holding summit talks at the presidential office of Cheongwade in Seoul on Friday, President Park Geun-hye and Norwegian Prime Minister Erna Solberg agreed on ways to diversify trade items and boost investment between the two countries. Seoul and Oslo will also expand cooperation in the shipbuilding and maritime sectors, areas which account for a significant slice of both countries' exports. The two will also launch collaborative research into eco-friendly energy and look into establishing a seaway in the Arctic. Korea's foreign ministry has urged the Japanese government to retract its territorial claims to Korea's easternmost islets of Dokdo, calling it a deplorable act. Citing the fresh claims in Tokyo's annual diplomatic report, the ministry's spokesperson reiterated that the Dokdo Islets are part of Korea both historically and geographically. The Korean government is expected to lodge a protest with Tokyo and will summon an official from the Japanese embassy later today. Seoul said Japan should work to improve bilateral relations in the future. Japan's repeated territorial claims over Dokdo have long been a thorny issue between the neighbouring countries and a major hurdle for improving bilateral ties. Korea's job growth showed signs of picking up pace last month, ending a 2-month slowing trend. However, there is a much gloomier side to the latest figures as the youth unemployment rate remains stubbornly high. Hwang Ji-ae has the details.
Statistics Korea says the country added 300,000 jobs in March from a year ago, putting the total number of employed at around 26 million. The agency adds the rise mostly came from the manufacturing and welfare-related service sectors. Last month's figure points to a recovery in the country's job market as job growth had been slowing for the previous 2 months. The overall employment rate also reached nearly 60%, while more people jumped into the job market, with the economically active population rising 379,000 last month from the previous year. But it is not all welcome news. The youth unemployment rate rose 1.1 percentage points in March from a year earlier to 11.8%. This is a record high figure for the month of March. In February, the youth jobless rate peaked at 12.5%, marking the highest ever figure. The agency attributes the higher rate to a rise in the number of the young people attempting to enter the job market and the civil service exam, as most of the candidates are young graduates. The government says it will lay out new measures this month to create more jobs for young people and women. Hwang Ji-ae, Arirang News.
Now, fears for global economic growth loomed over spring meetings of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank Group. IMF Managing Director Christine Lagarde told reporters that economic growth is being threatened by increasing factors. World Bank President Jim Kim said the weakening global economy threatens progress toward ending extreme poverty by 2030. In its latest World Economic Outlook, the IMF downsized its earlier projections for growth this year to 3.2%, that is global growth. The IMF head added that a British exit from the European Union, so-called Brexit, would pose serious downside risks to an already slowing global economy. China's GDP growth rate in the first quarter fell to its lowest level since the global financial crisis. According to China's National Bureau of Statistics, the world's second largest economy grew 6.7% in the January to March period. That's the lowest level since the first quarter of 2009. When it rose 6.2%. The figure also slowed from the 6.8% recorded in the fourth quarter of last year. However, the growth rate falls in the range of Beijing's target of between 6.5% and 7% for this year. And in a ray of light, other economic data signals that the Chinese economy may be on the track to recovery. Industrial output rose 6.8% in March, beating market expectations, while retail sales and fixed asset investments spiked more than 10%. Now, Koreans' meat consumption is well below the OECD average, despite a steady increase over the past few decades. The Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs says the country's annual per capita meat consumption was 51.3 kilograms in 2014. The OECD average was 63.5 kilograms. The United States topped the list with an annual consumption of almost 90 kilograms. Bangladesh was at the bottom with 2.1 kilograms. Korea's meat consumption has soared nearly five-fold from 11.3 kilograms in 1980, due in large part to changes in people's tastes and eating habits. Now, some sports news. South Korea will compete in Group C for the 2016 Olympic football tournament. It has been drawn against Germany, Mexico and Fiji. The 16 qualified nations have been divided into 4 groups. As you can see there, with the top 2 nations from each group moving on to the quarter-finals. South Korea managed to avoid being drawn against the favourites, such as the host Brazil and Argentina, but will face the defending Olympic champions Mexico, who beat Brazil in the 2012 final in London. South Korea will be looking to earn its second Olympic football medal after winning bronze 4 years ago. South Korea's first match against Fiji will take place on August 4th in Salvador. Well, those are stories we have for you at this hour on a Friday lunchtime here in Seoul. For more of the latest, don't forget to check out the website arirang.com/news. If we don't see you again, do have a wonderful weekend. Until next time, goodbye.